Welcome back to In the Oven with Adam and Brad.
What's up, y'all?
We were just watching a video about a drug called Telomere.
Telomere.
And it increased the what?
The telomeres.
Oh,
Yeah.
just increased the telomeres.
Yeah.
So apparently your telomeres start to decay and like shrink as you get older. And then they're saying that that's why a lot of people get cancers or other life-threatening diseases, just like this deterioration of this telomere thing that like helps keep you young.
Yeah, your DNA starts breaking down.
Right.
And so your body can't repair it as fast.
So really cool study on dogs. They gave this telomere to dogs that one of them had cancer, literally was like on its deathbed, and now it's like no cancer, run around fine.
Yeah.
But the, I guess, crazy part that happens is now the CEO has passed away.
They always do.
Right after this thing. And it brings me to something else. I was watching earlier today, so it's ironic that this popped up, a guy kind of talking about the coincidences or conspiracies, depending on what you want to do, about all these people that have supposedly developed things or were working on things and very close to bringing them to light, and then they mysteriously die. Like literally one guy fell out of a window.
Yep.
And we were talking about very intelligent people. One guy died from arsenic poisoning, but it was his wife that was the suspect, who also happened to die. So they didn't need to investigate anymore.
Yep.
But these people are the people that, and it talked about Tesla, like how Tesla had $0 in his name when he died.
Yep. All
All his funding got pulled from him when he said that he invented, what was it they invented? He went to JP Morgan, like
wireless
JP
power.
Morgan was like the guy who was funding a lot of his stuff. And when he brought his new invention and wanted more funding to JP Morgan, they pulled all his funding and they blacklisted him from everything.
Well, he owned the railways and the timber mills to make the poles, and he owned the copper mines to put the wires in the. So
yeah,
that's where capitalism did us no favors, you know.
Yeah. So like one of the guys that passed away is a guy that supposedly invented a like water engine.
Yeah.
Another, two of them invented, like zero energy machines or something that would like essentially run off of no energy. So it's interesting.
Well, right. You see things even from a kid and you're instantly trained to go like, oh, that's BS. It's a trick. And you know, there have been so many charlatans over the years to try and trick people. And so you don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of wild stuff out there of like major claims only to have that person
pass away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I get it. Things happen.
Oh, sure.
But like the same thing with the Boeing whistleblower.
Yep.
That like just passed away out of nowhere. This guy is blowing the whistle on all like the Boeing stuff. And so I think that part of you doesn't want to believe that there's this actual like kind of like secret society, like kind of making all these decisions. But then part of you is like, yeah, maybe that's possible.
Well, yeah, we've become so compartmentalized and specialized in our efforts that, there are folks out there willing to carry a disproportionate amount of violence and whatever else so that nobody else ever has to see it or whatever, if that makes sense. So, yeah, the boogeyman's out there.
Yeah.
Who they work for or whatever, that's, a different story, I guess.
Yeah, but to me, it's just so wild that you could have advancements in society that would make it a better place, but because it would take down, a large behemoth of a company.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the moral value of a life, of course, is it's morally, whatever, it's the highest, but the economic value of a life
they have a number.
If you don't have morals, if you are not, it has a number, and it's oftentimes a lot cheaper than, and that's scary truth, but it's true.
Well, I think about when someone dies in a situation where they shouldn't have died, someone did something wrong and this person passed away, they essentially attach a value to that person's life or to your grieving, one of the two, essentially.
No, I mean, just that there are, it making economic sense, them having the tools being the people willing to go do the things. There's a number, and it costs less than the billions of dollars these companies would lose.
Right.
So it's like, $50,000 here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of, I guess, money for someone's life, this is something we talked about earlier, the Disney lawsuit.
Oh, man. Disney, come on.
So for people that don't know, there was a woman who died because she was super allergic to, I forgot what it was. Was it some kind of?
I don't know the whole story, right?
Yeah, she was allergic to something, and they went to Disney Springs, and they were eating at a place, and they had told her that she had allergens. They left the restaurant, and while they were walking around Disney Springs, the woman had a allergic reaction. Gave herself an EpiPen, but ended up not surviving.
Yeah.
The weird part to me is they're only seeking, it says damages in excess of $50,000. It better be a lot more than that. I can tell you right now, if my kid or wife passed away,
I'm coming for everything you got.
I'm coming for everything.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be for any economic gain, right? I would be willing to write anything saying it goes to charity, but it's just like, no, you got hurt.
Yeah.
And so I don't know enough of the backstory, right? I know that if you're that allergic to something, I don't know, man, you got to hold yourself pretty accountable too in a mass served industry. That said, we put out a lot of products and we know which ones are allergen safe. So it's really not excusable for her to have gotten that hurt. It's unfortunate that she passed away. I guess my issue is, regardless of that, Disney just saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, y'all can't sue us. You signed up for Disney Plus."
Yeah. So people that don't know this, essentially they are saying that in a clause on Disney Plus that this guy accepted
the streaming
terms of use, 3 years ago. That he's like, I don't even think he's a paid prescription. It's
I don't
it was
care
like 3
if he
years
signed
ago.
up for Disney Plus that day.
Right. But the point is, Disney Plus was saying that because you agreed to those terms and use, that you can't do this. And
so they snuck an arbitration agreement in there. They basically say that you can't sue us. We have to settle it in arbitration. I don't know if couldn't ever possibly exceed that, but basically then Disney kind of gets to pick who the arbitration, who runs that, how it goes down. It's oftentimes a lot less expensive for the corporation. But the fact that if your streaming service like hurts my TV, okay, we got to settle something that's fair. I don't have all this emotional damage because I couldn't watch Princess and the Frog or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, fair. Okay. But if you physically hurt my family because I'm on some other property of yours,
yeah,
dude, that's nuts. And to even try to say that, I think they need to get just slapped on the hand just to set a precedent to the world. Like, no, you're not. We mass use everything with these free user licenses. You agree to multiple of them that, like, no way.
I actually hope this comes back and bites them in the butt later. I hope someone gets hurt at Disney, and then sues Disney and then adds Disney Plus to the lawsuit by saying, well, you before were saying that this terms of agreement now applied to your properties. So if that's the case, then your streaming platform is connected, and I want to come after everything that Disney is touching.
Well, they just own everything. Like,
yeah.
No.
Well, I was actually reading an article about Elon Musk is apparently helping pay for a lawsuit against Disney.
I think he already did. I think they settled
it. Okay. Yeah. But essentially, he knows that Disney has so many lawyers and they can make it so difficult that normally they just like drive people into the ground and make them settle for some menial amount. So he ended up financially backing this woman so that she could go get what she deserves, And so I think it's funny. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest part of doing business. It's like when we went up against Hershey's over the trademark thing. The truth is, if Hershey's wanted to make it this long, drawn out process, they could have made it very expensive and very painful. And you almost win by default of just, I have more money than you, so I win.
Yeah, well, you just have to respond, right? You've got an amount of time per whatever they're sending you to respond to their claims or demands, or vice versa. But so it's, if you've got the money behind having a legal team just draft stuff up all the time and look at documents all the time and respond to things all the time, that costs money, and so, the bigger, the lawfare or whatever, right? And so just litigious, tie you up.
Yeah, they were saying that like a lot of, again, when we had the issue with our land and D.R. Horton and stuff, obviously D.R. Horton's a massive company, has lawyers. They were saying like, hey, if you pursue something with them, they can actually end up like tying up your land for years where no one can do anything on it, even if they're in the wrong. Like, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I do not want to.
Right. I don't even want to go here.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I have friends that are lawyers and I love you as people, but I hate your profession.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Growing up, I wanted to be one.
Yeah.
Glad I didn't.
I mean, they make really good money.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I mean,
I would like to know more about it so that I didn't have to pay for one, so that I could like utilize, whatever. But so speaking of massive corporations that have tons of money, Starbucks. I think we talked about it last time. Starbucks hired the Chipotle CEO, so he's coming over to Starbucks now. His name is like Brian Nickel.
Yep.
His comp package. Had you seen it before this?
Nope. I saw that it had been released. I hadn't seen what it was.
Yeah. So his total compensation could be $117 million.
Solid.
And I think the biggest slap in the face from what I've seen is that Starbucks is requiring all their employees, like no one can be remote anymore, but they've just hired this new CEO and they're allowing him to be remote for his job. And giving him such a huge compensation package. And I think that's kind of like one of those things that like, I've never been a fan of that stuff. Yep. Like if you got to lead by example, if you want your employees to come into the office and not complain about it, you need to come into the office.
Yeah. I would say that I don't care what Starbucks is doing, but as a leader, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be, set the example.
Yeah. It's like, if it's okay for me, it's okay for we. So that's the way I look at it. So I just think that's like poor leadership. But anyways, it's like
I've heard he's done some pretty good stuff. I read a little bit about him. I think he was responsible for the Live Moss stuff with Taco Bell back in the day.
Okay.
So some pretty good turnarounds. I don't know if it says any of that in here.
Well, he helped Chipotle survive their whole like
and grow them to a pretty good size, like a pretty good multiple.
Well, do you want to know how he grew them? Just kept raising that freaking prices. And then you had to give him one of these.
Come on, guys.
A little more meat. But yeah, so obviously he didn't do a good job of standardizing their portions. I mean, I would like, I guess, to know more about him because like when I think about Chipotle, obviously Chipotle did become this like
cult thing.
Yeah.
It was cult like.
Yeah.
Man, when I was out in California, dude, everybody only wanted to eat at Chipotle or Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Both solid choices. I mean, but I was just like, again?
I think Chipotle was the first people where you could like make your meal and like you could kind of decide what you want.
Right.
Because since then, now you've got, Blaze Pizza coming in. You can like make your own pizza the way you want. You have a lot of those.
You could kind of macro healthy it a little bit.
Right. I think that's why a lot of people liked it is because like you're controlling like what's going into your salad or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he's been in like the industry, if you will, for a long time. Apparently he was at Procter and Gamble.
Is a beast, he says.
Yeah. So, Procter and Gamble, then Pizza Hut, then Taco Bell. And here's your Taco Bell part. He, the brand has spent $1 million to fight a class action lawsuit. Oh gosh.
Oh, the quality of its beef.
Okay. In January 2020, the brand introduced a breakfast menu as well as the more upscale Cantina Bell menu to compete against fast casual restaurants.
Oh, so he kind of turned it around, man. I guess he came in when it was having the bad beef.
Yeah.
I remember when that came out, dude. It had like no beef. Well, I don't know what it says. The percentage was like 10% beef or something.
Yeah, so in 2018 is when he came into Chipotle. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. He replaced the founder as the CEO. So he's the first legitimate CEO for Chipotle.
Doubled Chipotle's revenue.
Yeah.
And increased profits.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. But his salary is only $1.6 million, but he gets a $10 million starting bonus.
Yo, look at that, though.
$75 million in
doubled its
grants.
revenues, but increased its profits by almost 7 times. So, like, efficiencies for days.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Respect.
The stock price of Chipotle has increased almost 8 times under him, which obviously, I mean, that's the big thing when a lot of these CEOs, they get stock options. And so if you can increase the stock that much, then
shareholder value, baby.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. I guess we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, time will
because
tell.
I'll tell you, Starbucks is already considered a premium drink option.
Yeah.
So you don't really have a lot of room to move the price up, in my opinion.
I don't either.
But at the same time, people...
Speed and workforce.
Yeah.
If you can automate Starbucks, which everything's in a pump, it's in a liquid, a syrup, a dispenser.
But the baristas still have to know how to make the coffee. I've seen these machines now that cost a lot of money, but they replace people where you literally put the cup in and you
That's what I'm saying.
type in what to make.
Yeah,
and it just
I think
goes
it'll be
wrong.
like the McDonald's kind of gantry, cup gantry. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
And to a thing that just, there's your whatever.
Right.
There's your this.
Yeah.
Some tanks in the back, couple techs.
Yeah, I know that they were having some issues too. Some people were complaining because they were ordering no iced drinks to get more
volume.
but they're still getting the same amount of volume now because they're told ice is a part of the recipe. Just by excluding it doesn't mean that you get more of everything else.
Yeah.
And some people were pretty upset about that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think that Starbucks coffee is that great. It's all opinion based. There's people that love Starbucks coffee. I think it has a little bit of a burnt flavor.
It's burnt.
But I think they do that for consistency. If you take everything to slightly burnt, then that's your consistent product. So I've never really been, I'll just take that back. I'm not a big coffee person in general. So like, I'm not the person to go to about what the best coffee is. I like sweet stuff. Thus I have a cookie company. So my
I like
coffees
cold brew.
have to have a lot in there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of room. I mean, there's a lot of room for change with the economic landscape doing what it's doing. I mean, the way we're buying, the delivery-based things, Starbucks maybe not needing that AAA frontage, that AAA real estate that they've got lease agreements with across America. The pre-built, deliverable on-site units with land leases and stuff like that. I don't know. I think development's going to change. It's all going to change.
I've always heard though that Starbucks gets some pretty amazing deals for like acreage
strong,
and stuff
I
because
imagine.
their brand's so strong that they get to sign these like really long leases for real cheap.
I imagine.
So I don't know if that's ever been like a hurdle for them, but and Starbucks is corporate owned, right? Corporate. So like they own all their locations.
Yep. So they sign those big corporate back deals, but then if a store doesn't work out, the reason they get them cheap leases is because you keep paying.
Yeah.
So you close it, there's no problem. You're still renting it,
right?
You know, and so
this was actually interesting. I don't know if we talked about this, but the National Public Data confirms that there was a massive data breach, including social security numbers, phone numbers, email addresses. We're in the 2.9 billion records within a data breach. So pretty much they've said at this point, like everyone's social security number.
Yeah, the entire United States.
Yeah.
And the rest of, I mean, there's 330 million.
I don't understand how we're not at a point now where there's like verification that's beyond like your social security number. Like everything requires your social security number nowadays. So of course it's going to be out in a data breach. Like, why are we not to the point now where, I don't know, that I'm having to use like a retina scan and a fingerprint and some other stuff to like get into systems because voice, I don't know. I feel like nothing's secure enough with the way AI is going. Anything that is on the internet is eventually going to have some AI malware being able to like attack and eventually get its way in because it can brute force so much faster than people can.
Yeah, it's tough, dude, because you can always skim. Right.
Yeah.
So like, even if you had like, you get the little key fobs and stuff from the bank, you can still skim that somehow, get the data that's on it in real time, put it in. I don't know, man. You're right. With the speed that everything's going, I don't know what the solution would be. Yeah. I'm still hung up on what the 2.9 billion records were. There ain't 2.9. There haven't been 2.9 billion people exist in the United States, I don't think.
Yeah.
There's only 300 plus a million now.
Maybe your social security number is a separate record than your email address or something like that. So
everybody's everything is released.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that's pretty much what they're saying.
So what do you do about it? Nothing?
My friend reached out to me, to send that to me. Well, my friend, I mean, we have a lot of followers. So like a lot of people were like, oh gosh, you guys need to do something. Right. But like Aubrey and I pay for credit monitoring. Mm-hmm. I think that now essentially you need to, if you have any kind of net worth that you are worried about, I think you probably just need to pay for some kind of credit monitoring at some point. Because one, that stuff's usually backed by some kind of guarantee. So if someone does open an account, they're going to worry about it and they're going to pay to fix it. So Aubrey and I pay like $400 a year for this thing, and it does that. And I've used it to all of our credits locked, but I somehow still got that loan.
Yeah. Huh. There you go. It feels a little like paying the mob, you know, but you're right, man. Like just all the scammers and hackers and everything out there.
Well, it just makes you worried because we're going to this, you know, everything is going internet based, right?
Yeah.
All payments are pretty much like online payments using a credit card or using, you know, your bank online. And then you're like, man, we're going so online with everything. And then you see these massive data hacks. Like if someone were to get into a Wells Fargo or the back end of like a Chase bank and could like drain the accounts, I understand FDIC insurance, all this stuff. I'm not trying to like say that like you're SOL, but it's a headache, man. Yeah. You're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to go to the bank and try to get your money back. And, you know, I know they're only insured to a certain amount, and I think it's per bank account. Yep. So like if you have more than $250,000 in an account, like you wouldn't lose that. And I know there's plenty of people out there that got more than $250,000 in one account. Sure. So you start going like, man, that's a headache. And every time I get more than 250,000, I need to open another account and like start trickling money into it.
Until you just kind of play on the safety of the bank, so that the bank holding its own security and holding its own insurance and holding insurance against your money and complicated things because money gets very complicated. But
again, I think of all those things, I don't worry about the like ramifications of them as far as like the financial. The headache. Yeah. If anyone's ever had their identity stolen or a bank account open in their name or any of that stuff, it's not about the actual thing because most of the time it's not a big deal. Like I had a bank account open in my name. Yep. It didn't take very long to get it handled, but I had to handle it. I had to call these banks and like verify all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where we're going to get to. You know, I don't think you can fix these problems unless you're in person. And then it's like, well, that's difficult. You know?
I don't know, man. I think it's going to be, you know, some 2FA thing.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever that looks like. You know, they're doing the passcodes. I mean, you've got Apple ID, you've got your Google key, you've got all these other entities that are now stepping in going like, we'll take care of that for you. Right. Making it easy, you know, hopefully I didn't sign any agreements that they can't come kill me, you know, because I have a Gmail account.
But if they, you know, I do like it when they text my phone, but I have to assume that at some point someone's going to be able to just skim your phone.
Yeah, well, hypothetically, if they cloned your SIM, jammed yours. Again, I don't know how they do all this, but they do, then they would get the text and you wouldn't.
Well, speaking of scam stuff, everyone knows that like our check got stolen. Yep. We talked about that. I actually, you know, on Sunday when we went to Shipwreck after church, we saw Travis Goodwin there, and he works as like kind of like he does like kind of a bookkeeping type stuff for a company that makes some kind of pumps for like Ford vehicles. Okay, I don't know if you know these people or not.
Eastern,
maybe I don't know. Okay, yeah, maybe. But it's a family business, so something. But anyways, long story short, they've had 3 checks stolen in Atlanta and washed. And he said he's seen the checks and they look identical to their checks, but the name of who they're going to is completely different. So now they have a special thing with their bank where every time he writes a check, he has to go online, type in exactly who the check was to and the check number. And so the check can't be cashed on the other side unless those details match. So I was just like, again, there's ways around all these issues, but you're making so much more work for the people writing the check. So what happens is now your cost of goods are more expensive because now that pump, they're going to charge $5 extra for these pumps because some guy's got to spend 10 minutes making sure these checks are reconciled before they go out. So now you raise the price. So really when people scam, they're making it more expensive for everyone else. Yep. Because people are going to recoup their cost.
Well, yeah, you gotta pay for that layer of protection. Everybody would just do what they're supposed to do. But
that hardly ever happens.
Yeah, no, it's stupid. All right, what do we got here?
Chinese test drone-based cloud seeding in, I don't know, I'm going to try to pronounce that, to bring rain.
Xinjiang.
Well, you already told me that they do this in Dubai, right? Yeah. They do cloud seeding in Dubai to make it rain.
I mean, I'm not on the scientist team, but I've seen them do the cloud. Yeah, silver iodide. big old smoke grenades underneath. Yeah, I mean, this is known.
Yeah.
They have cloud generators that are on land.
My question is, at what point do you go like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this stuff?
I don't know, right? Because this is down the line of like Elon and the rest of them, whoever think that we can go to like Mars and terraform it into a habitable area. Okay, well, if any damage has occurred to the Earth, why can't we just terraform it back?
Right.
And so, like, I don't know what silver iodide does to the atmosphere. I don't know that this is how we should be testing it. I don't know what it does to us or whatever. But like, yeah, I mean, making a desert area not a desert might be useful thing. I have more of a problem with us playing with our genetics than I do playing with the sandbox, if you will.
Right.
You know, obviously we talked, so kind of putting from a Christian lens, I guess, God's kind of like, here's your earth, play with it as you want to. Maybe we're not doing it any favors right now, but I don't think he was like, mess with your genetic code. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird.
You know, I think that anytime I think of like terraforming, all that stuff, it reminds me of just like the movies, like where the Decepticons come in and they're like, we're going to turn your world into, you know, whatever. Or what was it in the DC universe? The mother boxes.
Yeah.
They had to find the mother boxes and they were going to terraform the world into like whatever. So I always think about those things where they're like, just like,
well, so like cloud generators and seeding and stuff, that would be necessary if we were going to do anything on another, you know, planet. So
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, obviously if we could reverse some of the, I guess the truth is though, we hear about these things, and please don't come after me on this climate change versus like global warming, all this stuff. I feel like we take a very small look at time and we go, oh, look, temperatures are increasing. Yeah. We have global warming. Right. But like, we don't look at this giant pictures that shows like maybe a cyclical temperature situation. So I'm not saying that we have not done any harm to the world. I just find it very hard pressed that we've done enough damage by using stuff inside like it's not like we created things or brought stuff from outer space and started like using it, you know? Yeah.
There's too much money in it. There's too many people making too much money. Their only cure currently is to make themselves more money. And the biggest advocates are using a disproportionate amount of resources to the rest of us anyways.
Right.
Flying private jets all over the world to talk to everybody else about climate change. I don't know. I know that I'm not smart enough to figure any of that stuff out. I just don't trust any of the people that are telling me one way or the other, you know? I don't think we're smart enough to have studied it in real detail. I don't think we've studied anything long enough. And I think it's all shots in the dark as to whether or not our solutions are even solutions. But they're presented that way. Like, if you don't do this, and it's like, well, you don't know that's going to work.
Yeah, I've always said this. If there's money involved, somebody's cheating.
All the money.
And the way I mean that is, I think someone asked me, they're like, do you think some of these CrossFit athletes do drugs? And this is where it first started out because, you know, CrossFit was supposed to be this tested federation. And, you know, you're watching the CrossFit games and you're seeing some very yoked individuals. And someone's like, do you think they're doing drugs? And I said, listen, if there's money involved, people are using any means necessary to get ahead at all. I mean, I think we learned that with Lance Armstrong in the Tour de France. I'm sure there's people that have popped for drugs in the CrossFit world as well. And so why would that also not be in the world of economics and things like that? Like, why wouldn't someone be making sure that things looked a certain way so that their company is making more money? Because we've already said that, like, if everyone wants to move to electric cars, great. But that electricity is powered usually via coal still to make the electricity that you just plug your car into. And then at the same time, lithium mines are terrible.
They look like Mordor.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, so it's people get caught up in ideal worlds and they get idealistic and they forget that, you know, those take real actions. Those actions have real results. You have to be able to modify, change on the fly, solve the problem. We've gotten real good at signaling a problem, and then the solution is tax. You know, so it's like, I don't know.
Tax or highest bidder.
Yeah. Well, and when the solution is always the same and the problem is seeming to get worse, but is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm not intelligent enough, but I know that the folks that are or should be are paid by climate change groups whose purpose is to lobby for more tax taken from the. So it's just too convoluted. It's far too convoluted.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing I've learned over the past however many years is that the longer you really start looking at these issues and people want to say Democrat and Republican, all that stuff. The truth is there's corruption on every side. Oh, yeah. All these people are making so much money. And the sad part is they have us out here bickering about voting for this person over this person. And if you vote for this person, you like hate babies and women and you don't believe in their rights or whatever.
Vitriol, dude. You used to be able to be like, oh, Brad's a dummy. He's going to vote for so-and-so. But hey, Brad, how you want your hamburger? And we would still get together the neighborhood cookout. Yeah. Now people, dude, you say you're going to support the wrong candidate to a certain person and they hate everything about you, disgust. It's so bad. We've like dehumanized our neighbor that far.
Yeah.
That like these handful of ideals are so, like.
Right. And then what I'm saying is they're up there laughing at us because like at the end of the day, them or their buddy is getting elected and they're making money and it's like whatever.
Well, truthfully, I don't think that it works like we think it does. So we're so divided down here. I think they're chumming and palling around with these guys have been in politics. I mean, they've been in their office seats, some of them 40 years.
Biden was like,
that's what I'm saying. How many dinners, how many whatevers, they're talking, they're friends with all of them.
Right. And it is weird because it just seems like they've been in politics for so long and they just keep staying in there and no one new is like kind of come in.
It's Hollywood for ugly people. They just get up and, entertain us. And like somebody is running their mouth and puppeting and, having the teleprompter running for them. I don't think any of them stand for anything. Not when you've been there that long. Next term, the next term is going to be my term. And you're just like, okay, dude. I
mean, they wholeheartedly, everyone, Republican, Democrat, will say anything to make sure they're elected. I mean, how many times have you voted for a candidate because of something they said they were going to do? Joe Biden and student loan forgiveness or, Donald Trump because he said something about tax and it like never came about.
Or just run in like a low turnout area where you're just unopposed.
Right.
Depending on how popular you are, I'm sure you could pay people to just not run.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Or own your own little county somewhere, just really everybody there just likes the hell out of you. So you have a Senate seat somewhere, whatever.
Or a mayor seat. Because I'm pretty sure that our next mayor is going to win because a lot of people like him.
Oh, freaking landslide.
If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But speaking of extreme weather, did you see the water spout off the coast of, I think it was Italy?
Oh, yeah. Toss the boat.
Yeah, Sicily. Yeah. But Mike Lynch and Morgan Stanley, Jonathan Bloomer are missing after it's like
they just yeeted them.
I think there was like 6 British people that are still missing from this yacht. And so it's a pretty wild
show picture because Mike Lynch and Jonathan Bloomer, this would have been a massive yacht, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. It's really big. Go. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. I don't know. 184-foot yacht.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's massive. Yeet! So, first off, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know that, like, water spouts just came out of nowhere and just, like, could take a boat out,
Yeah, as a person who lives on the water or lives near the water, obviously, need to be on the watch out for this.
Well, I mean, I knew that water spouts could occur, but, like, I mean, this must have caught them off guard. They were anchored, just chilling, and then all of a sudden.
There's been some weird weather over there. I guess maybe not weather. Greece had the big fires. My sister-in-law was actually over there.
Oh, yeah.
Kelsey was over there, like, during that or...
What's funny is, like, I feel like if you're not directly affected by things, so, like, for example, Hurricane Michael.
Oh, you know what? And then they went to Italy. Kelsey, bring the bad weather.
So, like, Hurricane Michael, people didn't realize the effects of Hurricane Michael if you didn't live here. Because they talked about it on the news for, like, what, a day? Yeah. And then maybe a couple days, and then they're off.
We should have got a PR firm all over the city. The city should have hired one to just constantly stay in the news cycle, push them content to... we would have gotten more donations. We would have gotten more help. But yeah, I agree with you. If you weren't here.
Did you hear what happened in Utah recently? They're apparently getting like massive flooding, and they have basements there. So I literally saw this TikTok video where this kid is in his basement, and you hear the window like creaking and popping. And so he's like getting his like keyboard, and he's like carrying it out of the room, and the mom is standing there filming him do it. And then all of a sudden the window just busts in, and it's a river just pouring into their house. And I was like, holy crap. So I texted Hayden Wadsworth, who lives up there, obviously. And I was just like, hey man, y'all good with this weather? He's like, yeah, it's been some crazy storms in our area, but like in my area, we're fine. But yeah, another one that's just like random, crazy weather events that, again, if you didn't live there, or there wasn't social media, you wouldn't even know about the effects of this stuff. You know?
I think that leads to people's anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just knowing.
But I mean, there's probably stuff going on all over the world you have no clue about.
No, that's what I mean. We used to not really know too much. You know, you read the local newspaper and that's the world. Right. And now it's like, did you hear about the water spout in Italy? You know? Right.
So it killed some. Yeah. I saw some people comment though. They're like, oh no, a billionaire died.
Yeah, dude, like I know that. I can see the.
And I think it's just so, jokes. But I think it's sad though, because like that's still a person. He has a family. He has wife and kids, and I get it. You don't think billionaires should exist.
It's easy to. They're like a. And some of that, right? Like I would agree. It's, you know, a little bit of thick skin. I bet most of them take it pretty okay. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is sad they lost their families. I'm just 184-foot boat is big.
Oh yeah. Yeah, my parents had a 40-foot boat, which is the smallest boat you can have, and it'd be considered a yacht.
Okay.
And that boat felt big. I mean, there was 2 bedrooms on that thing, you know, and so 184 foot. I mean, 184 foot. There's a crew.
The whole crew.
At that point, I mean, you probably have a captain, and then you have like 2 engineers that work in there. And then most likely you have at least like 4 people on the deck. Yep. So like a bosun and some deckhand stuff. And then on the service side, you probably have like, you know, we've been watching a lot of Below Deck, you know, so you got like a chief stew, and then you usually probably have 2 or 3 stewardess underneath her. Mm-hmm. And then you got a chef. So I mean, the staff on this boat was probably 16 to 18 people. 22 people on board. Yep. So I don't know how many were, I think there was 6 people are still missing. So I don't know how many people were actually like traveling and how many people were, but either way, the mast was 3 meters shorter than the world's tallest mast. Oh, wow.
237 foot tall. So I guess maybe sails were out. I don't know. Cause that would have.
No, it was at anchor. It was at anchor. It was at night at anchor. So I'm assuming that this storm kind of came out at night. And I know that, you know, most times you don't have someone awake unless you're in waters that you feel like you need an anchor watch or something like that. But either way, crazy. Also, like, bro, if you're sleeping on at the bottom of a boat in a stateroom, and you get hit by a tornado and the boat starts sinking, good luck, bro.
Yeah, you're done.
Unless you got a good breath hold.
Yeah, the pressures. Well, and the what is it? Where the boat creates
the suction that it kind of creates. Yeah. Which actually, bring that up. Do you know how torpedoes actually work?
No.
So torpedoes, I thought they when it blew up, like detonated on the boat, that's not what causes the damage. Torpedoes actually don't even hit the boat themselves. They blow up close to the boat. And what it does is that explosion causes causes it. And then immediately after that, the water collapses to fill the void. Yeah. And that immediate collapse is what like breaks the steel and stuff.
Okay. So water doesn't compress.
So that's the same kind of thing that happens with this boat is that like you essentially the heat and everything, you take a void and you create a giant air pocket. Mm-hmm. And then that air pocket, everything rushes to fill it. Yeah. And then when it fills it, it just pops everything. Killer. So, yeah. And missing tech tycoon Mike Lynch is a co-defendant in an $11 billion fraud trial. Fatally struck by a car just day before the billionaire yacht tragedy. Interesting. Yeah, again, listen, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but it just gets weird. It gets weird. I'm not saying that they're connected at all. I'm not implying that at all. But what I'm saying is, like, it's just really weird when you start like connecting some of these pieces and you're just like, I feel like there's other things at play other than God and natural selection.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, the things that just make you go,
Yeah. And I get it. When you relive our entire Myers story and the check that went missing, you would go, there's no way this actually happened to you. And I do think it was a bunch of unfortunate events that kind of compiled and compounded on each other. But I also think there was some shady stuff happening as well.
Agreed.
So, anyways, that's interesting. I didn't know about that one. So, but other news, let's talk about some fat and weird stuff. We have a guy running across Texas that we're sponsoring, or one of the sponsors for.
Yep.
Running across Texas starting in October.
That's right.
That's like just over a month away. You and I think, are going to try to head down there to do
a little jogging.
Yeah. At least go to the Austin part. It'd be fun to run a little 5K or something like that in there.
I'll die, but okay.
Yeah. Hey, you going to start training? You're just going to do it.
Just going to do it.
Just wing it.
Yep. One take.
I'll be honest with you. Adam is one of those people that he could probably not work out for a long time, and then he just gets in there and you're like, you keep it pretty well, you know? Cause you came to CrossFit when I was doing CrossFit for a while, and you're fine.
Yeah. I'll try.
So
it's cardio. Kills me. Can't breathe. But
yeah, I'm trying to get better. And then, I guess speaking of running, I want to start a run club in Sweet Bay.
Yeah,
so I talked about that a little bit. I want to call it the Fat and Weird Run Club.
Okay.
And I think the slogan should be, "We'll run for cookies."
Okay.
And so what I want to do is take the designs that we have on the back of our shirt, but put some of them in a sneakers with a headband, put some shades on him, he's like a little runner, you know?
Andy figured out a way to animate him a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, I think that it would be fun just to make this Fat and Weird Run Club.
Yeah. Sick. I think that'll be easy to do. There's tons of people running in there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I'm going to start in Sweet Bay. I think I'm going to launch it the week after Labor Day weekend, because Labor Day weekend was when we kind of move in there, and I was like, I don't want to have to try to do it. I'm not competing with Labor Day weekend.
Right.
So I think it's going to be we'll probably do it 7:30 in the morning, just so that it's not so early that people can't get there in time, but it's also not so late that it's 1,000,000 degrees when we try to run. Yeah. So it'll be fun. I think so far, I already have 4 or 5 people in Sweet Bay that are interested in it. So we'll see how that turnout goes. Starting that Fat and Weird Run Club. And then in other news, DoorDash is supposed to have our bites rolled out into stores by the second week in September. So I think it's the 9th of September, that kind of week. So obviously on social media, if you're following Fat and Weird, you'll see the announcement on there. We've already made a video to do with DoorDash as well. And then I'm going to sit down and do some more videos, just talking about the products and showing it. We have a long form video kind of already created showing, that we've been working on it for a year and a half.
Yeah. It feels like forever, man. But also, it's crunch time, man. It's getting real.
I think, again, that's the hardest part with owning businesses like this. So much fun stuff comes up and you want to talk about it, but sometimes it's so far down again, I got really hyped about Publix, and I talked about Publix very early on, and we do have a PO from Publix, but it's I sat down with Christian and looked at the timeline. We're hoping that Thanksgiving is when we're getting into Publix.
Right. Well, and also us protecting our focus, if you will, because opportunities will present themselves, but they're not going to pan out anytime soon.
Right.
So it's you're going after opportunities that you kind of need to pan out right now, treating them that way. You don't want to miss that bigger opportunity when they pan out at the same time.
Right.
So it's hard, but
yeah. And then I know we talked about QVC. And I don't know the whole story, so I'm just not going to get into it on the podcast, but long story short, we got told that QVC was no longer interested just based on some, either our name or some of the names of the cookies. We actually had a meeting with QVC today. So that would, for people that don't know, we filmed these on Tuesday. So this would be August 20th. We had a meeting with QVC, and it sounds like they are interested. They just have some concerns about some names. They're going to go back and forth. We're going to find out if the names are actually that big of a deal and deal breakers to them, and kind of go from there. So Aubrey and I are flying to Detroit tomorrow to hang out with our friends. And then we're flying from Detroit to Philadelphia because we were supposed to be filming for QVC. We're not filming for QVC because of these issues. So we're kind of like on hold with QVC. I'm excited about the opportunity to work with QVC, but at the same time, I'm never going to change our brand or what we do just to appease someone else. I think that you just put yourself into a bad situation.
Yeah, that's right. There was a lot of frustration initially for sure, but we were kind of playing telephone through a broker, and brokers are very helpful and useful. And we're not here on this channel at all to badmouth anybody, but there was a lot of stuff that just wasn't getting through to us, that when QVC came to the table and kind of broke it all down, it was like, that's fair. You have a different demographic than us. You have an older, predominantly female audience. Understood that you want to make sure that you're not going to offend anybody to the point where you're losing customers because they don't. I mean, somebody else could fill that void with a lame cookie that wasn't as fun and cool as ours. But I think times are changing. We are completely a family friendly brand, and so. I think as they re-poll their demographic, they'll find out that like big booty dough is not so offensive to the old women out there, whatever. Yeah, I'm not sure, Yeah,
I think, obviously I take a lot of care when we're naming the cookies that I want them to be fun and weird names for the flavor they're describing, but I also want there to be a completely PG way to explain the name. Obviously, some of them skate the edge of that, and I think that there is a way to describe the same name in a much more rated R version. Yeah. But there's also a PG version. And so in my opinion, as long as there's a PG explanation for the name, then that should be good, because at the end of the day, anyone can misconstrue anything to be like way worse than what it actually is.
Yeah, well, it's 2024, and it's not an uncommon marketing tactic to use things like that.
Well, just go ahead and say what Mr. Beast has.
Oh yeah, Mr. Beast has a D's Nuts bar. All across.
It's just a chocolate bar with nuts in it.
Yeah,
and obviously, if you like the PG name would be like, oh,
it's got nuts
this one has nuts in it.
Yeah.
These have nuts, right? Which is completely acceptable. Obviously, the rated R version is just like, it comes from very memey.
Well, like it or not, video game language has entered the chat, if you will, right? And so, like, it's here. Everybody hears it.
Right.
It's a little more slang. It's a little more whatever. None of our cookies have curse words in the names. They have, maybe some innuendo, but that's, again, only if you know what that is. And so, yeah, I haven't seen any. All my kids know the names of the cookies. They have no problems. I have no problems with them knowing them. None of them know what pitch intense even is.
Right.
They won't till they're much older. That's even another connotation. And truthfully, it's so old school and everything that it's like, no, dude, it's a s'mores cookie.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I told her on the phone. I said, I could see how you could look at pitch intense and say has a negative connotation, but also, like, if I get up there and I explain the cookie and someone goes, how'd you come up with the name pitch intense? Like, I'm not going to give you this rated R thing. I'm going to say, I always like to name our cookies based on, like, I guess like a one-step separation from the item. For example, you make s'mores when you go camping. What do you also do when you go camping? Like, you have to pitch your tent. I mean, that's literally what it's called. It's putting your tent up. Yep. So, and then putting your tent up would have been a weird cookie name. So pitch intense. So that's how the name, came about, because I would say you can make s'mores otherwise, but majority of people are making s'mores when they're going camping.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's kind of, and I can explain all of the names. I think the most difficult would be to explain would be Big Booty Dough, just because it comes from the 2 Chainz song, All I Want for My Birthday is a Big Booty Hoe. And we were like, oh, Big Booty Dough. But
genius.
Yeah, but that's kind of how the names come about. So yeah, I can see, obviously, Big Booty Dough sounds bad, but that's kind of how these names came about. So if they came to us and wanted to change any of them, I would just call it Big Birthday Dough or something like that.
Well, I wouldn't say that type of stuff's off the table, but like also, again, dude, our products would crush on QVC in a gift pack.
Yeah.
And we're getting cooler and cooler with a younger demographic. So your grandmas on there ordering the product are going to be wanting to be the cool grandma with the cool cookies at their house with the fun names.
Yeah.
Your kids, you grew up with millennial kids and you've got whatever version they are now that we're making. I'm just telling you, it's not. I can understand because times changed probably pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That there still are the kind of old folks that are offended by everything, but they somehow live in under rocks or something. Because
Yeah.
it's just like turn on television, do anything, and you're going to see way worse than anything that's ever going to come on a Fat and Weird cookie.
Yeah, and I think the one thing, which no one from QVC watches this, but like the one thing that I like caution them on the phone is that like I realize that you have a certain demographic that is your customer base, but you need to slowly work on extending that demographic to a younger group, because Buick didn't do that. Buick stayed set in their ways, and I don't know the PR or the right way to say this, but essentially their demographic started to die because their demographic was, they followed a group. They had a group of people that were 40 years old that they marketed to. And they, instead of continuing to market to 40-year-olds, they just market to that same group as that group got older. And then all of a sudden that group stopped buying cars because either they, one, couldn't drive anymore, or two, they had passed away. Mm-hmm. And so Buick has had they've done a good job, but they had to come back and re-advertise to it.
Well, you drive your car a lot less. You change your cars out a lot more. That's an interesting topic. It makes me think of something. There's a couple of, I think they're very small, like local government sectors, but they're pushing for saying that younger people can't purchase cigarettes. So like if you're born under this year forever, like no new customers.
Oh, okay.
And they're saying that Big Tobacco has always held that they're just there to support their current customer base.
Right.
That they're not marketing to new people. They're
Right.
not marketing to kids.
I don't know if that, I haven't seen a cigarette commercial in ages.
I haven't either. It's not in the movies like it once was. It's not whatever. I think vaping and other delivery systems have probably phased maybe a lot of that out.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about that. Because they could do it to anything.
Right.
Caffeine, sugar, whatever the hell. Yeah. And like the thing is, stuff like that'll pass. Because parents that smoke aren't going to want their kids to, they're not going to need them to have that freedom, I don't think.
Yeah, but my question is, are they just going to replace it with vaping?
Yeah, probably. So I don't know what all it would fix. I'm just... Again, just going like, okay, here's a new way the government gets one over on you.
I saw this video, speaking of vaping, this girl in like Italy or somewhere like that, and she had a vape that she bought there. And on the bottom, she realized at the bottom it said like, if you finish this vape, it is equivalent to smoking 18 packs of cigarettes. And she was like, oh my gosh, like what do I do? Because like she was going to finish that vape in like a week of being over there, right? Yeah. And she's like, I essentially am smoking 18 packs of cigarettes. And we all know that like if someone were to tell me, hey, if you smoke this, it's equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes, everyone's just like, no, that's not what I want to do. Right. Which I don't know if what it was equivalent to. It could have been the nicotine, just concentration. I don't think it's all the other stuff that they put into cigarettes. But it makes you think about that when you start vaping, is that I remember when vaping first came out, this is safe. You're breathing water vapor out. It's no big deal. There's nothing in this that's bad for you. And then you hear stories about like, that's not true. Like people are dying for vaping in this.
Yeah, they put chemicals in it. Yeah, for sure. No, it's just interesting from a perspective of like passing laws that way, because I could see them going for firearms or any number of things.
Yeah.
And just getting...
Well, if they did that, cookies. You can't sell cookies to anyone born
sugar content, or whatever, because there's already areas that try to do like vice type taxes, but that cover like junk food.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, it'll never happen in the food industry.
They ain't coming for our cookies.
Well, I can tell you they're not coming for cookies because too many people make too much money, like the big seven, if
big
you will.
Cookie. Yeah. Hey, big cookie's the thing now. Yeah. There's a big everything. There's somebody out there's the biggest, and we're in $1 billion sector, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I can see lobby groups like creating it so that people couldn't enter, and then only Big Cookie could have their way with it, But I just don't think that it would ever work, because doesn't Big Tobacco just have so much money? Like the Marlboro and all that of the world?
I think so, but they have to be off their heyday.
Yeah.
I mean, like...
Well, they're saying that alcohol is actually seeing a large decrease in sales and stuff like that. And you know what's hurting the most? Wine. Wine apparently is taking a beating because the younger generation isn't wine drinkers. A lot of them are actually moving towards like mocktails and like the truth is, what I've learned, I feel like most younger people would rather smoke weed.
Cannabis and mushrooms are like huge.
Yeah, and do that, and they don't want to consume alcohol. And so that's where that crushing cans, that whole mocktail experience has become really big. So I've seen a lot of companies doing mocktails, and the business is booming because of like the industry that we're
I mean, I can see that. Benefit of alcohol, it helps you bury your head in the sand when you just don't want to pay attention to some stuff, and when times get tough for people. But today's group's built different a little bit. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and another thing too is just like I feel like a lot of people are more conscious of calorie content.
Yeah,
so that's like seltzers have become huge. I mean, do you remember when White Claws were like everyone had White Claws, and then now you have White Claws, High Noons.
All of them.
What are some of the other ones y'all drink? I know.
I do the Surges a lot.
In the Happy Dad or whatever.
Yeah, Happy Dad's one.
So, I mean, there's so many.
Alani Nu's got one.
They had one. I think they got out of the game just because they so many other brands were starting to get into it. They just said, we just got to focus on energy drinks, which it's smart play.
One sector, man.
Alani did a lot of things because Target actually approached them and said, hey, you guys are killing it in this. So they actually for a while wanted Alani to do those, those essential waters, those pH balanced waters. Yeah. They wanted Alani to make some. And so I actually sampled Alani's. I got to taste it next to those. And when I went to Hayden's house, I got to sample some of the ones they were working on. But I think they just scrapped it all because they're like, we're going to spread ourselves too thin. Like we need to stay in the energy drink world. It's like,
you don't want to get near big water.
Well, Red Bull isn't making water. Red Bull isn't making seltzers.
They turn water into Red Bull.
Yeah. So, that's just an interesting thing. I think a lot of people, well, me included, when I first started Fat and Weird, I was like, where can I throw my hands to make some money, right?
Yeah, I need all the business possible.
Yeah, the protein cookie butters and mega cookies and regular cookies and then flatties and then edible cookie dough and stuff like that. And I don't regret doing any of that, but I think if you look back, I'm not sure I made any money doing edible cookie dough.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the learning curve, right? When you go, I can make a lot of money doing that. I did that with landscaping. I did that all over the fucking place, man. You go, all right, cool. All I got to do is get this piece of equipment. Well, you got to figure out how to use it, and then you got to figure out how to make money with it. There's that learning curve and that recapture of money that it's like, when all said and done, you're further ahead than where you were. But would you have been further ahead if you niched down? Yeah. And it's tough because everybody will tell you yes. Everybody will always tell you, I wish I would have done that a long time ago. But in the moment, you're like, I can't. You can't feel it.
Yeah.
You're just like, must be nice to get to where you are.
Right.
And they all did it. So part of me always goes but you did a lot of the scrambly shit that I did in the past too. Would you have been able to, did you, you should have niched down, but you didn't have the revenue to niche down, you know, you're growing your business.
I think that's the hard part is if you were to tell me to go back and look at Fat and Weird and what would I have done differently? I mean, I do have some things that stand out. Obviously I think that I would have loved to have just been more on top of building this building and the costs associated with the build out here. And long story short, I wish I would have bought both of the pieces of property at once and built one massive structure across the whole thing, from the get go, cause that would have been really nice. But again, you just don't know what you don't know. And if I would have built one giant structure when I first started, I wouldn't have built it right. There's no way I would have.
Right.
I could have never seen coming what I saw now. I always imagined that e-commerce would just continue to grow and we'd be putting out more and more cookies. So the way that we do that is completely different than the way that we do things now, which is predominantly wholesale. I mean, now we spend a whole day baking one flavor and sealing it up and boxing that one flavor up, palletizing it, and then getting it out the door to get held at our holding center. That's not at all how we're doing e-com. I mean, e-com, we're baking all kinds of different flavors, and then we got people boxing up all kinds of different flavors. So it takes a lot more things. So, I wouldn't have known to do that. I think that I probably wouldn't have spent so much time on a storefront here just because we're so off the beaten path, but I always wanted a way to give back to the community. So there's a lot that I would have done differently, but obviously in general, I'm so happy with where we are now. I'm super excited about everything that we have in the future. So you know, if I changed any of those small things, would that have changed the trajectory of the company?
Yeah, I think so, man. Butterfly flaps its wings
Yeah.
and all that. I believe, you know, and they make you who you are,
Yeah.
you know, without the like, oh shit moments. Yeah, you're just not ready for it. So I think we're ready.
Yeah.
Big things ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we have
very, very exciting times.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things. So I'll actually be back next week on Tuesday. So we'll talk about everything that happened while I was gone. I finagled our flights, and on our flight back from Philadelphia, we're actually Aubrey's mom is going to connect in Atlanta at the same time as us and join us on the way back because Aubrey and I are moving. So that'll be really exciting. Obviously to talk about that process, because what that means is this upstairs area that you see right now, a lot of stuff is going to change because it is going to become the content studio office space for us up here. We're going to kind of have like a conference room and a studio, like I said, to like shoot content. Adam and I are shooting the podcast all the time in the middle of the office, but now we're going to have like our own spot to shoot that. So I would say probably give it a month to get settled in there, because I think me and you both want to do some like painting and decorating and got to get like a couch and stuff like that. So it'll be one of those like follow along as we, produce this stuff. So as always, thank you guys so much for joining us on the podcast today. You're worth it. Do hard shit.